Welcome to the CrossFit Canada podcast, where we're telling the stories of Canadian affiliate owners and coaches. Really excited for my guests today, the Cristinis. If you've been involved in CrossFit in Ontario for any length of time, you've probably heard the name or seen the hair. So, gentlemen, how we start this off is like any new person joins your gym or drops in for a class is going to be question of the day. So as we're recording this, regardless of when it launches, but as we're recording this, it's the first day of the 2025 Open. So we'll go around, introduce yourself, your affiliate, and you can do either first open workout or favorite open workout. I don't really have a preference there. So let's, I'll go this way on my screen. Chris, you're first.
Oh boy. My ADD is already kicking in. You just want me to introduce
yourself and your affiliate.
Cristini, CrossFit East Woodbridge, but we go by Cristini Athletics Woodbridge. Previous to that, we were actually Reebok CrossFit East Woodbridge, years ago. This is my 15th Open, and my favorite memorable workout, I don't even remember what year. I think it was maybe 2012. It was deadlifts, box jumps, and I think push-ups.
Yeah.
And I sucked at it. Like I sucked really, really bad. I could deadlift a lot. I could deadlift heavy weights, but it was 155-pound deadlifts, and I sucked. I ended up having to do it 3 times. I remember doing it 2 times in one day. And if I didn't do it, I wouldn't have made regionals, right? And that lesson taught me, YOLO, you got to go and you got to go for it if you want something. If not, you're going to regret it. And I didn't actually qualify. The year before I was top 10, and that year I didn't qualify for it. And I ended up getting backfilled because I got those extra 3 reps that time. Wow. So it taught me a life lesson of, if you want something bad enough, you got to be willing to do whatever it takes and learn how to be better at light deadlifts as well.
Very cool. You're up, Steve.
All right. My name is Steve Cristini. My affiliate is CrossFit Markham. We go by Cristini Athletics Markham. It's my 15th Open as well. So my very first Open would have been 2011, 11.1. I think it was snatches and double unders.
Yeah.
Right? 15-minute AMRAP or something like that. I think I wouldn't say favorite. I would say one of my most memorable Open workouts was 27, 21, 15, 9 calorie row and thrusters. Don't ask me what year it was. It was one of the most painful workouts I think I've ever done. I remember watching Rich Froning do it and just like seeing him in pain. And I was like, oh, this is going to be bad. If he's in pain, this is going to be bad. I remember hanging out at the back of Woodbridge for about like 45 minutes after a 7-minute workout, just like wanting to puke and die. So that was memorable. That one stuck in my brain. But anytime there was like a heavy snatch, it was like, thank you, sweet baby Jesus. Let's crush some snatches. So those ones are fun.
Love it. My memorable that stands out is I believe it was 2014 and then got repeated again in 2019 was the toe to bar double under clean ladder.
Oh yeah.
135, then 185, and then went up. But it was memorable because me and someone else in the gym were going head to head, and I believe it was 27 toe to bar or 21. And we both kind of were like, who's going to drop down first? And neither of us did the first set unbroken. But the point is, got to the 135-pound squat cleans, and my hip flexors stopped working. And it was a disaster. So the lessons learned of the Open. So, but here to talk about you guys, tons of information that we can get into with you guys in terms of owning multiple locations, having a family business, all of that aspect. But I do always like to start with the CrossFit origin stories. Is how did you guys start CrossFit? How did you get introduced to it?
Chris, you?
I think like most people, right? A friend brings you in, kind of ignorant towards it, right? At the time I was in my early to mid 20s. I thought I was the fittest out there anyways. I was a Canadian Thai boxing champ, right? I trained 6 days a week. I did my cardio, I did my weights, and I would train Muay Thai 6 days a week for 2 hours. So literally I was ripped. I thought it was amazing. And I was a champion at that time. So I went to CrossFit Toronto. They're around. They're not around anymore, unfortunately. But I went down there. Buddy brought me there. I did a 7-minute workout. Blacked out. Didn't know what happened. Lost to a bunch of 40-year-olds. I thought they were old. I'm 40 now, right? I saw these ripped 40-year-olds. I'm like, what the hell? There's 40-year-olds can be ripped, right? And they all spanked me. And I couldn't move for a week. I didn't do one sit-up, but I couldn't cough for a week, even though I do crunches and sit-ups hundreds a day. And I was like, wow, clearly there's a big hole in my game. I'm garbage. I thought I was the best. And since then, I never looked back. I just want to always challenge myself and keep pushing forward.
Very cool. Steve, what about yourself?
Because of him, back in like 2007, we started dabbling with the CrossFit.com website, and just watching these MP4 videos that were terribly grainy and stuff like that. Watching Josh Everett do some ridiculous workouts. You're like, why is he so strong? Why is he just working out so fast? And we came across the workout Fran, and I was at Ryerson at the time. I think I was like 18, and the gym at Ryerson is like 4 floors underground. And Chris just told me, he's like, you know what, just try to do this, workout where you're gonna like squat and press at 95 pounds. You can do it like 21 times, and then just do 21 pull-ups, and then, do 15 and 9. And I think I put 95 pounds on a front rack, and I just like fell. And I really quickly realized, I'm going to do an empty barbell. And the first day that I did it, I did 3 rounds of 10 squat presses, hence thrusters, and 10, I don't even call them kipping pull-ups. I think I made something up. I think it was like the frog kip, which was like back in the day. I did like 3 rounds of 10 and 10, and then I couldn't walk up the stairs to get out of the gym, let alone get on the subway, let alone get home. It took me like a week to not be sore. And I basically just repeated that for a few weeks until I got brave enough to go out in the garage to work out with my brother. So that was my story.
So then we have the family aspect. So Chris, you're the older brother, Steve the younger. How many siblings overall?
There's one in between us.
One in between. And do they do CrossFit?
They do not.
Okay. That's who's the third Manning brother?
His name is Alex. Yeah,
okay.
Alex. He's in the middle, yeah.
There you go. And then how long was it from there before you joined an affiliate and then eventually led to opening your own?
There wasn't really any affiliates around.
Right.
CrossFit Toronto was very far. There was one in Aurora at the time, and it was like it was a Muay Thai kind of place that sort of did CrossFit. They had an affiliate, which I think they've been probably shut down for 15 years at this point. So we never really had much opportunity to go to affiliates because they didn't exist in 2007. CrossFit Toronto was very far. We weren't going to go there. We were just, Chris started going right to the garage, and he was also doing it at a place that he worked. I think I went to that place in Aurora like maybe twice, and I was the only person to show up for the class. So I showed up really quickly. I was like, I don't need to go there. And the coach clearly had never done CrossFit. So yeah, there wasn't CrossFit affiliates back then.
Then, so is that the inspiration to, what was the first affiliate that you guys, how did it? CrossFit Markham? Okay.
I did the CrossFit Level 1 cert.
Okay.
And back then, it was the first time them coming to like Eastern Canada, right? Back in the day when you literally, to get certified, you show up for the weekend, there was no test. It was just,
right.
It was raw. They didn't even know what they were doing, to be honest with you. Some of the jargon that they'll use, they won't even admit they even said it, let's just say. However, it was just like everyone who goes to their first level 1. Like I was in the fitness industry for 5 years at that point, right? I was a personal trainer. I was a personal training manager. So I knew my stuff, but I was completely inspired by them. Right? I'm like, wow, I want to know what they know. I want to learn this methodology. I want to make a difference. I want people to look at me the way I looked at these level 1 guys, right? Men and women. So it actually motivated me to go back to school. I was like, you know what? I want to go back. I'm going to take kin, and I want to learn everything to the cellular level. I want to know more than these guys, right? So that's what inspired me. And then from then, I sent HQ an email saying, let me be an affiliate. This is my Fran time. I'm really sad. Right? Like ignorance, right? And they said, thanks for your application. However, we're not giving it to you because I'm completely missing the point. So we did our own thing. We opened up in the garage. I was originally supposed to open up in the gym that I was working in. They were going to give me a space. They ended up giving the space to their friend. So I said, forget it. I got pissed off. I'm going to my garage. From there, I started doing it, helping people. And then I'm like, okay, you know what? I guess they're not going to care about how fast my Fran is if I'm going to go for an affiliate. And it's more about seeing results, making a difference and an impact in people's lives, right? So second time around, I waited maybe 3 months, I think, not very long, 4 months. I rewrote it. It's like a completely different person wrote it, right? And then okay, clearly he understands what we're trying to do here. And then they gave me the affiliate for our garage. So that's how it started.
I think what's so interesting about that is the perspective shift, but then also like maybe for the tens of people listening to this, there's an abundance of everything, equipment, information, resources, but you guys started where it was pinch, grab, steal, create. I feel like we're jumping ahead now, but how did those early days of having to create things that you wanted for your affiliate, how did that lay the framework for the rest of your business development, if at all?
I think there's a couple things. It's exciting because you're trying. It's just me and Steve bouncing ideas off ourselves, seeing what sticks, right? And it's so new that back then it wasn't like you're competing against Orange Theory, F45, Fit Body Boot Camp, LA Fitness, Lifetime, blah blah blah. It's like either there's us and there's like Good Life, right? There was no competition, so we could get away with these things, right? So we were lucky, I think, to do what we got to do and be, as successful as we got to be. But anybody opening up now, I hope they never have to go through what we go through. And I want them to save 15 years of learning the reality, because I'm seeing all these new affiliate owners that are opening up thinking that they're going to be way far ahead than us. It's like, you're making the same mistakes as us. 10, 15 years later, it's like, man, like, have we not evolved? There's not the support that you think that's out there. It's not gaining traction. That's why we need podcasts like yours, right? To save these people 5-10 years of making mistakes, because what's going to happen is that they're going to be in business for 5 years. Then they're going to be like, okay, that piss and vinegar and ignorance is all like, it's gone, right? Now it's reality. What's my bills? Like, I'm tired. What can I afford? How much is my rent? Because we know how expensive things are, right? Yeah. And what are they going to do? Oh, Johnny, you're one of the good coaches here. You're jacked. You're full of piss and vinegar. You got a good 5 years of life in you. Why don't you buy my gym? Why don't you buy my business? Okay. And it's repeating and recycling the same shit that's going on. And that's why you might not see affiliates grow. You're not seeing CrossFit evolve. You know what I mean? Like, let's talk about the elephant in the room, right? Why is it not getting better? Because it's not.
Yeah. Steve, any thoughts on that?
There in the beginning stages, aside from like what's kind of currently going on now, there were definitely things that we were conscious of. This is like pre-Instagram, pre-social media, right? So getting ourselves out there, I think we did a really good job at that. Like, we were throwing up YouTube videos, in 2008. Like, we can go back on YouTube and watch our videos from 2008. And we started right away with like particular branding. We started right away with, even slogans, which we can't use these days, but like back in the day, it was no bullshit, just CrossFit. And it was in every video. And we were pretty good at kind of building an identity right away. The identity, we can't do that now in that way. But, regardless, what I'm saying is, like, there was things we were conscious of, I think, as a business right from the beginning. And I think that consciousness helped us have opportunities as CrossFit did begin to grow. Because, when in like 2011, 2012, when Reebok got on board, things kind of skyrocketed for a little while. And at that time, we were, because of, I think, what we had built, we were able to be in the room for big conversations. We were able to be in the room for these big meetings, to be involved with Reebok, to be involved with HQ. Competing, I think, also had us there in another way as well. But there was just a number of reasons that we were able to be part of the growth and see that aspect, and then also see if we want to continue to grow, what are the things that we need to change on our own, because we can't rely on other companies. We can't rely on HQ to do those things. And that's not even a knock to HQ. This is an affiliation system, right? It's all about the cream of the crop will rise to the top. We are not a franchise, and we can't expect franchise style, not to say leadership, but like guidance. So we started on our own, realizing, okay, well, if we want to be in charge of the narrative, if we want to be in charge of our brand, if we want to be in charge of those things, that we need to take full control. And that's one thing we continually work at. It's something that makes a big difference to us. There's a lot of rabbit holes that this could go into, but I think that consciousness was one thing. But I also think what was good for us was the fact that we had three brains as an affiliate. It was me, it was Chris, it was my mom. And we all brought something different to the table. Chris was in a newer age gym where it was a little bit more modern. I think they were a little more forward thinking. My mom had worked in the gym for so long that she knew that people mattered. She knew that relationships mattered. I came from a little bit of a background of like graphic design and video and stuff like that. So I think that we were able to work together. And I'm not going to lie, like affiliate ownership is hard. You're going to wear a lot of hats. Nowadays, you have an app that can make you a video. Nowadays, that you have AI that can build you SOPs. Now you have all these tools that are great. But I think if you didn't learn how to do it before that stuff, just because you have it at your disposal now doesn't mean you're going to do it right anyways. I think suffering through it helped. Now that we have developed it on our own, when we have tools to use, we can use those tools because we have the backbone of what we have. So, we're not just relying on these great tools, but I would say there are certain aspects that are easier if you know how to use it. And if you know how you're going to apply it to your business and how you're going to apply it to your brand. But also three brains is a lot easier than one, because there's a lot of times that like I have great ideas to me, and then I'll call Chris and I'll be like, man, we're going to do this. He's like, no, it's a bad idea. And, his favorite word is like, I'm going to play devil's advocate. And, and a lot of the times halfway through, I'm like, it's a bad idea, man. But there's a lot of independent affiliate owners out there where it's just them. And in your head, you're awesome, right? Like we're all awesome in our own head, but sometimes you're not, right? Like sometimes you need someone to kind of call you out on your shit, or maybe you're not giving something your full effort or your full attention, right? So
that's so cool. And you mentioned rabbit hole. I do want to steer this down one rabbit hole that hopefully is productive. But, is to your point about not have someone to bounce ideas off of, there's one thing to be like, hey, this is a bad idea. But I also feel like the inverse is equally true of like, that's a good idea. Why don't you do it? Rather than thinking about it and then being like, no, it's stupid, and putting it on the shelf. And so what I mean by that is like, necessity is the mother of invention. You guys were in that era where you had to create everything. And if you go back to the 2010 to 2014 CrossFit scene in the GTA, and, I'm north of that, and I want to like think about like the Compwad series and right, like kicking it, but it was just a bunch of people doing CrossFit in the area that would create things, whether it's Jamie and his crew with Compwad or the Jacked RX guys or what you guys were doing. And what was the scene and the environment like in the GTA area in those early days?
It was exciting. It was
everyone was just the early days was passion, because we didn't know any better, and it was just everyone wanted the same thing. We all wanted to make it bigger. We wanted to help people. We wanted everyone to feel the same passion that we felt, and there was such a huge community at that point, which was amazing. And people were willing to work for free because the significance they got from helping other people, there was no dollar amount, right? Like no one was doing it for the millions of dollars that were not created. They were doing it for just literally trying to make a difference and just trying to, you know, spread the word.
I think part of it too was it hit a certain point when CrossFit affiliates got competitive with each other as businesses. And in the early days, that wasn't the case. So everyone was buddies. It was like, hey, you do CrossFit, that's awesome. We should probably hang out. Like, you know, I remember in the early days, like we would literally go work out at other affiliate owners' gyms like once a month, and we would throw down because of like all the original regionals guys back in the day, they were all affiliate owners. And we were none of us were in competition with each other as businesses. On the competition floor, like we wanted to kick each other's ass. But as businesses, like we just wanted people to see CrossFit. We wanted people to know what it was and how cool this exciting thing was. And like, I think at a point, like every regionals, like you would pride yourself on like who had the biggest crowd. Because if you brought in a big crowd, meant like you had an awesome community that came in to learn and see and watch. And then eventually prices got more expensive. And all of a sudden there's 5 affiliates in your small town. And some of that camaraderie did kind of go away for a while, I think, until the pandemic. And also the fact that there's half as many affiliates as there used to be. And we realized like you shouldn't be in battle with another affiliate. Like we're in Markham, right? Markham's got a population like 300,000 plus people. Like we need 0.01% of the population and we would be slammed. Like we would be too slammed. So how many CrossFit affiliates should there be? Like, why not have lots? That just means more people are talking about it, and people are going probably close to where they live. Markham's a big enough town where you could live on the other side of Markham. You're like, I'm not driving half an hour to get to that gym. I'll go to the one closer. But I have my grandparents who live close to you, and I'm going to tell them to go to you because CrossFit's awesome, right? You're not fighting the other affiliates. Like you're fighting Good Life. You're fighting these other systems that can't give the service that you can or can't give the value that you can. I mean, if you're fighting other CrossFit gyms and they're winning, that might be because it's something on you, not something on them, right? But the mentality did go that way for a while, and I think now, I mean, even look at this. Like you're putting a podcast together, you know, the CrossFit Canada series where people are coming together, more actual in-person events. Like I think that's amazing, and I want more of that because I think that's impactful, and I think it's building up what CrossFit is in Canada for the affiliates, but that means they're just going to get more people talking about it, more people having positive experiences with it. And I think that, you know, if we can continue to kind of go further into that, I think we can see this thing grow. And I think things like this are where we're going to see growth. So we just need to keep not just promoting it, but like developing it.
Well, or even to do this exact thing is have conversations with each other, and whether or not it's roundtables. Ketty does such a good job of getting those going, but it's like if you're uncomfortable meeting up with the affiliate down the road or in the same town, is everyone's an Instagram message away. Use that affiliate map and just throw a dart at it, and because as you were saying before, the idea of just gym owners getting together or athletes getting together, and it's the same reason as in a class, you're going to push a little bit harder to beat the person next to you. It's like, well, what if we use that same process to push each other to do more in the healthy competition way?
Couldn't agree more.
So going back in time a little bit then, there was, how long after opening the doors of Markham did East Woodbridge come? And what was the impetus behind that?
3 years, right, Steve? 2.5, 3 years?
Because Markham became an affiliate in 2009.
2012. So 3 years after.
2012.
3 years later, we ended up opening the Woodbridge location up.
Yeah, but the reason for that was the Reebok was getting involved with CrossFit in 2011. Right. And we had been there for a bunch of meetings that kind of happened like down at CrossFit Coliseum. They were just trying to like meet with some of the people who were kind of really in the space because they wanted to get a sense of what it was, you know, if they were going to enter it, like what was it really like. And then at the time, Reebok's head office was moving from Montreal to Vaughan, to Woodbridge. And they actually came to us and asked us to apply to open up a branded Reebok CrossFit partnership gym, which there would be, you know, one of few in the world kind of thing. It was like a special thing to have. But it wasn't like a shoe-in. It was, hey, apply and you'll see if you get it, if you want it. So we had to build a business plan. We had to kind of find a location without actually getting anything rented. We submitted our application, and for whatever reason, if I remember correctly, I think there was 13 applicants. They awarded us the location. But truthfully, honestly, the second location is when everything changed for us. It went from like a part-time family business thing for fun. Because at that point, Markham was in its first location. It was a small little location. The rent was cheap. It was closed all afternoon. We would have 2 classes and then shut down for like 6 hours. And then, we would go in, teach a class or 2 and shut down for the next couple hours. Nobody answered phones. I don't even know if we had an email account at the time.
Right.
But when we went to the second location, just being paired up with a big company, it forced us to level up. It forced us to be professional. At that point, like that gym never closed. That was open all day long. We had to be part of business meetings with Reebok. We had to have certain things that just professionalized us. We all had to quit our other jobs. We had to do this full time and for real. And, even that itself, it was like a full dive in, no looking back, no plan B. We're doing this and we got to do this right. So
what were some of the early valuable lessons now looking back at that? Like, it seemed like not what happened was as important as the fact that it forced you to create action and evolve and took the things that you probably wanted to do, eventually. It's like, well, now you got to do it next month instead of in the next 5 years. So what was valuable to you guys now looking back on that?
I think the importance of when we went from 1 to 2 is we had to now create systems, right? Okay. We hear a lot about it, create systems. We hear it from entrepreneurs.
Right. Yeah, what does it mean?
Business principles, like, it's okay. I can just do everything on my own. I'll just kind of whatever. I'll do it. It's faster than me getting the front desk to do it if I have a front desk. 2 locations, you need systems. You need organizations. And that's when things change. Building systems is something that's so underrated. You hear about it a lot, and then people end up doing it or forced to do it when they get to a certain level. It's like, I need it done yesterday. And the significance of implementing systems at an early stage when it's so simple and you can just slowly update it as you're going, it's so gradual. So this way, if you have to step away from it, you can follow my Holy Bible and do what needs to be done. I can step away for an emergency or for whatever the reason is, or if you have to sell it, whatever. But most people don't do that until it's too late, and it makes things a lot more complex. And they don't realize they're leaving money on the table because they don't have their systems.
Yeah, this aspect of like when I'm ready for it. Almost the same idea of like I'll start paying myself when I'm ready for it. But I can't leave my full-time job if someone is a full-time employee as well as owning an affiliate on the side. It's like, well, but you may not need the money now, but if you don't start taking it now, you'll never start taking it.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
So on that note about systems then, what's something if you were, again, if we were in a roundtable type setting and someone's like, well, I've been thinking about doing stuff. What's the first thing I could do? And I'd be interested if you guys have the same answer or different answers.
You want to go first, Steve?
I guess, like if you're a new affiliate, I would look at what is the best use of your time, right? Because there's a million things to do. And there's probably a kid out there or like an intern out there that can do certain things that you don't actually need to touch. Right. So, the idea of like buying back your time in the early stages is important. I also think that if you pride yourself on the fact that you're still coaching on the floor 40 hours a week, you're not to say that you're doing anything wrong. Like clearly you're passionate about it and that's good. But if your goal is to grow, it won't work, right? Like you need to be investing your time into growing your business. When you become an affiliate owner, most of us became affiliate owners because we loved coaching. But then you really quickly realize you're like, I'm actually a business owner now. Right. You got to have like a little bit of like a hard conversation with yourself and say like, I have to do the boring stuff now. I have to do payroll. I got to do number crunching, and I got to do this and that. And it's a different thing. So if you're still coaching every class, either build an internship process as fast as possible. Like your biggest problem at some point is going to be coaching. And I know every single affiliate owner has gone through that at some point. You're going to not have enough coaches, or you're not going to have good coaches.
Right.
You're not going to find them. I'm telling you that. Like the unicorns, we call them, we've always called them unicorns because like they happen every once in a while, is so far and few between. But if you develop a process right away of building good coaches, you're much more likely to actually have them when you need them. So build good coaches, buy back your time, and get rid of your silly jobs. Right now, it's really easy to hire like an 18-year-old to go on Canva and CapCut, and they're going to be the ones doing your social media. If you're spending 4 hours a day doing social media, truthfully, these kids are better at it than us anyways. Like they're on TikTok and all that. Like maybe you are, I'm not. I suck, right? Like have someone else do that kind of stuff. So just understand how valuable your time is now that you are a business owner. You're not just coach anymore. You are a business owner. Do business owner things.
Don't ask me. He just said pretty much everything. Right? He's like, just do all of that. Right? So he's right though. He's right. Right? Freeing up more time, building a system, how to onboard a lead. Right? What's the process? Who's going to do that? Because if you're teaching the classes, someone needs to know how to sell. Someone needs to know the steps, how to process them, how to bring them to their first class, how to nurture them, how to make sure that they're happy. So this way they stay. They're not just here for, a 2-month special or something like that. They're here for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. What is that process like? Because if you're the only one who knows that process, you need to be there 24/7, right? I think that's the one thing that, he might not have said in everything else, but that's just something else that would free up your time, right? Because understanding how the best way to onboard a new lead, to nurture, to have a good experience, to pay and stay for a long period of time is very important as well.
Yeah, and like it's again back to those early days of if we didn't have kettlebells, we had to make, you hear about people making their own kettlebells or making their own elements. Is you can make the things you need, and to your point about getting someone to do it is like I've just started working with a virtual assistant, a remote person, and realizing like, yeah, I can buy back time for much cheaper for someone to respond to emails who's actually way better than me at doing it. And so not giving, you guys have, I'm guessing it takes a village, not just the three of you, but you guys probably have a large team that if you were to do it all on your own, you would be isolating those people away from being able to contribute to this bigger thing. Let's unpack that a little.
We're we're at the point where we have, between the two gyms, we have something about, I don't know the exact number off the top of my head because I feel like it's changing all the time. I think like 40 plus employees, whether they're front desk staff, they're coaches, they are class coaches, they're physiotherapists. It does take a village, but your front desk managers become like the hub of everything. And if you teach them well, they can get to the point that they like keep you in line, right? Like they get to the point where they know certain things and they're like, hey, this is your part now. You go do that thing, right? One thing also kind of throwing it back and talking about like throwing it back is back in the day, you also didn't have the competition where you had to be good at the closing the sale. Like there was nowhere else for people to go. They were throwing money at us in our garage and we're like, I can't believe these people are showing up. This is wild. Like, you really want to work out in my garage? Like, but they didn't have choices. Now, if you don't have those things dialed in, or at least the right people to dial those things in, like I can tell you for a fact, Orange Theory probably does, because they're a franchise. And so does F45, and so do these other places. And Good Life's now all have like CrossFit zones, right? So if you don't have your stuff in order, or at least have the right people to do those roles, man, it's a lot harder than it used to be. So, managing the people is our main role now, right? Like managing employees in the right way and the right employees for the right jobs. That is ultimately still what allows us to do what our original North Star was, which was help as many people as possible. If it's just you, your hands only go so far. But if you can spread your hand to 2 or 3 people who are kind of the hub, who then can spread their hand to 10 people, well, now you can help 10x people. So having the right people in those places is also what's going to help you get there. And realizing that, like, again, you're no longer coach, you're business owner. Business owners manage people. People help other people kind of get whatever your service is. For us, it's health and fitness.
I wonder if anyone's listening that might be thinking, but it is easy for them to say they're in a town of 300,000 people. They've been around for a long time, but not to bring up any deep-rooted trauma, but you guys also had a much bigger shift to manage when you were challenged with something like the pandemic that we went through. So
yeah, but I also think because of our team,
okay.
like we were running virtual classes. What do we have, like 8 a day, Chris?
Yeah, it was,
and we had shifts.
Schedule. It was regular schedule.
We had shifts, and we had coaches who had certain hours that they had to coach, and they did it from their home. Meanwhile, me and Chris set up a studio in the gym. We did kind of like the 2 big classes today, but during the time that they were teaching virtual classes, and we had 2 gyms, so we had like 40 people checking into these classes. Me and him were like looking up bylaws and looking up things and looking up how we're going to manage this thing, looking up, how do you get a grant for the time period, which none of it worked anyways. But like we were able to spend time there because we did have a big team. And I think the affiliate owners who actually didn't have a big team, like it sounds like we had more things to like worry about, but we had more of a team. We had more of the help so that we could keep the place alive and figure out how we're going to keep this place alive.
Well, and I mean, it sounds like the core values you guys established right away, way back in the early 2000s, was challenged there of not how do we keep paying ourselves, how do we keep paying our rent, but it's we've got these members, how do we take care of them? How do we keep them happy and healthy? And if you do all the right things for all the right people for all the right reasons, not that it happens, but it does kind of happen.
No, you know what? I wish I could show you our core value.
I was going to say, right beside Chris's computer.
The very first core value we have is family, right? I can like throw everything else out and just remember that one word, family. And at the end of the day, especially if you have kids, there's nothing you won't do for your family to better them. Yeah. So if you remember that, everything else falls in place, because we know that people don't come here for a cool workout. You can Google, you can chat GPT cool workouts. People don't come for the sexy saunas because we don't have any of those. You know what I mean? If we're competing, like Lifetime is just down the street, right? And they have beautiful everything. But what we have is we have people that treat people like family, who genuinely care to see them succeed, right? So much so that they will text them, they will call them. They didn't see them at the gym, to make sure they're staying in line. And that's the number one reason why, like Steve said, our employees stayed, our community stayed. And we didn't just, it's pandemic, I'm going to close up shop. Hopefully they're not going to put their membership on hold, because that's not what I would do to my family. That's not respectful. In the hardest times, our goal was to do as much as we can for our family members when they needed us the most. And people, that aren't part of our gym, you're so lucky your members kept paying you. It's like, no. We offered them a service that went above and beyond. The same thing you would do for your kids, right? And they reciprocated that back to us. And it's equally reciprocated, where they needed us at that point just as much as we needed them. We didn't just close up and hopefully they don't put their membership on, because that's not who we are and what we do, right? And it paid, and it's not even about the money and about surviving. Hearing what happened post-pandemic, how many people said, you helped us. I almost got divorced. I was suicidal. I'm on antidepressants. You guys got me off of it. There's so many stories that we heard. And we know that, our North Star, our core values, the way we treat people, our members, the way our employees treat our members, we're so in line with making a difference that how could you not want to be a part of something like this, right? And 15 years later, we're not lucky. It's not lucky we're here. It's because, we treat everybody with respect and we don't hope they're going to give us their money. We're earning it and they see value in it.
Steve, thoughts?
He's right. Before he even said it, I wanted to say, I was like, I wish he could turn his camera because the core values are literally right there on the wall. When you do things with the right intentions, it's hard to do wrong, I think is the simplest way. Is we're here to take care of our people. And also what he said too is we worked harder than ever in our entire lives during the pandemic. I had a 2-month-old at home that it was the hardest decision was keep this thing afloat so that my 2-month-old can have a home. It was hard, but our efforts were reciprocated, like he said. And, it's that family value when you do it right, they feel it the same way. And they, like he said, they didn't put it on hold because they knew we needed it, but we also knew that they needed us.
Yeah. And, to bring it back to balance is you can't run the thing on good intentions and core values alone either. It is still, as you guys have said, it is still a business, and part of your family, it means your own family in your house and being able to help provide for them. I think it would be worth diving into slightly the icky feeling people get about taking money for what they do.
They don't truly understand their value then. And they don't have systems, and they haven't thought about enough of what they do to create value. Because in a family, I love my family, but I still have to go to work every day because I know what my budget is. I still have to worry about all the things that I'm going to need to pay for, even though I love my family, and how I'm going to be able to afford their future. So those principles in that organization and the periodization of, if I need to make this much income now, and I know that I have so many years until my kids have to go to university or buy a car or buy a house or whatever it is, I know I need to keep doing this and this and this, because if not, I'm going to fail my family essentially, right? So it's the same principles.
How does having rates that someone is actually worth hold them accountable to maintaining that value to their community as well, though?
Well, you gotta put the money where your mouth is, right? If you're you're going to charge a certain amount and you're not worth it is one thing. But to be perfectly honest, I think 95% of CrossFit gyms, if you're listening to this, I'm just going to say it, raise your rates. Raise your rates because you're better than you think you are. And the impact that you're having on people's lives is worth value. I also think that sometimes, and it maybe depends on where you are, but you also need to hit a point where you recognize if you want to do this for 20 years, you need to be bringing in a particular type of person. Right. Your avatar needs to be reflective of what do you need to make to do this for 20 years? What do you need to make to pay 40 people, not in most cases, maybe it's 4 people, a part-time salary where they'll stay with you for 20 years because you're not going to do it by yourself. And then what's going to happen when your rent goes up? Because if you're not thinking about that now, it's already on its way to going up, and it's going to happen. I'm telling you. Don't think about what's your rent now. So think of those things. Then from there, just reverse engineer. What do your prices need to be? Because if you're thinking, yeah, but I'll just have more members. It's first of all, you won't, right? Chris Cooper posted all the time. It's you're going to have 150 members. Yeah. He's not wrong. You're going to get that. And probably never more, right? Hopefully what's happening is you're bringing in better quality members and you're charging them more year over year. And you're improving your service. Maybe you're going to diversify and do different things, but you're probably going to have 150 members. And honestly, sometimes I hear gyms I got 350 members. You're cool. What's your rates? You're oh, it's $120 a month. You're shit, that sounds like 300 problems, right? It's I would rather have 150 solid members where I've got a great relationship with these people where we're actually having impact, but I'm charging them more, because more people is not necessarily meaning you're doing a better job. It sounds cool to say, and I know that a lot of affiliate owners get caught up on how many members they have,
Mhm.
But then when they actually break down like their cost per client and like what they're actually making, you're like, it doesn't sound worth it. I'd rather charge more and have like 1/5 of the clients you guys have and just do a better job. And that's not knocking anyone who is crushing it, right? It's just to say that like, if you're going to have a lot of members, you're going to need an even bigger team, right? And then you still need to think, how can I keep 300 members for 20 years? I'm going to need 20 coaches to keep that many people and maintain that many relationships, which is going to cost a certain amount of money. And if I'm still charging 2009 CrossFit rates, I probably should raise my rates. And don't grandfather people in either.
No.
Don't do it. Don't do what we did. You're going to ruin yourself.
Remember, Steve knows a lot because we learned the hard way, right? And
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Well, and that's why I've said on previous recorded episodes, like, if you took, speaking of like making mistakes, is if you took a affiliate gathering and if someone could bring their buckets of success, you know, some people would have a big bucket, others would have smaller ones, and then everyone brought their buckets of failures. The people, yeah.
It won't fit in the room.
It's like I had to leave it at home because I couldn't bring it, right? And you know, it's like we had a planning meeting and I was like, okay, we did this and failed, we did this and failed, we did this and failed, but it sounds like you guys are the same. As you have to fail forward to learn these things. You have to try to go unbroken on Fran to realize you can or can't, or if you're down to 3 sets of 10.
You know what? I agree to a certain point.
Okay.
First 5 years, you should be connecting with someone, right? Whether it's an individual consultant, whether it's one of those, you know, like Two Brain Business with Chris. Don't do it on your own. You can't. It's not worth the money that you think you're saving, because you're not. You know, as you get to a point where, like, you know, once you become a 10+ affiliate owner, there's not a lot of them around, right? And then original affiliate owners for 10+ years. So even to the point that CrossFit, I don't think, knows how to nurture and maintain these people, because there's not a lot of them out there, and they're stepping into it's a new boundary where it's like, okay, there's older people now. How do we help them? We don't really know, because, you know, I'd say at least 80% of affiliate owners are, you know, 0 to 5 years, right? Yeah. So like original owners, right? And we could help them level up big time. So I think yes, obviously making mistakes, but there's so many years of mistakes that you can save yourself by connecting with the right people, consultants, businesses, whatever. It will be worth spending extra money that you don't have right now, because it's going to save you from probably losing everything or selling it off in 5 years.
Yeah, or just being willing to not make the mistakes, but say, okay, I'm going to take action. I'm going to try this thing, rather than saying, well, but you tried that and failed, so it might not work for me. It's like, well, here's why it didn't work for me, and here's how you can do it better.
I think a lot of the problems is that people who jump into CrossFit, just like us, 15 years later, they're doing it because they're passion driven. They think business principles don't matter because this is fitness. I'm helping people. They're going to see through all this and just throw money at me, and I'm going to have the best life ever. It's not. It's a business. People are going to see value in you if you provide a service, just like every other business. The more service you provide, the more value they see, the more money they're going to give you. And that doesn't happen by just showing up every day and trying. That comes with organization, having a North Star, having systems put in place, right? You have to follow those steps. The sooner you realize that, the sooner you're going to be in control of your life, and you're not just hoping good things are going to happen, because there's going to come a day you're going to be like, why am I doing this? How much longer do we have, right? And you're going to let down the whole community when you shut down. And that's when it's really going to hurt, because it goes beyond the money.
Something that's always helped me is drawing those parallels between the 10 general physical skills and then just like business, realizing they exist whether we want them to or not. And someone could, you know, every single CrossFitter, once they've been doing it for 3 years, they say, I'm going to dabble in Olympic lifting. I really like it. It's like, no, you just don't want to do the intensity part. Or someone could be vice versa. So realizing what I don't like doing in my own fitness, whatever workout I don't want to see come out in the open, is probably what I should work on for the next year. And business can be the same. It's like, you don't have to do payroll, but you at least have to know what it is. or you don't have to do sales, but at least know that it exists and that it's important. So what you hate the most in your business is probably what you should at least understand a little bit more. Would you guys agree or disagree?
100%. 100%. I'm lucky that I have Steve, because I suck at a lot of things and he's amazing in all the things that I suck at. Right. And I think we're in a lucky position where I could honestly say, I can't speak for him, but if I didn't have a partner to pinpoint all those things for me, right, whether he's doing it to be a pain in the ass and let me know how shit I am at certain things, or if he's like, let me help you because he cares, there's no way I would have a gym 15 years later. I'm telling you right now, there's no way I would have been able to do it on my own. No way. I don't know if I could do it for 10 years, maybe 5 years if I was lucky, because I'm no different than everyone else. So I'm really lucky in that sense. But going after your weaknesses is always number one.
So we may have already touched upon it, but it'd be worth circling back to. So closing things up here, if you guys were to just offer some general advice to someone listening, what would that be? I'd let you each chime in on something.
I think the first thing would be is, depending on where you are in your life cycle as an affiliate owner, what year, get help right away. If you're doing this on your own, you're going to learn the lessons just in a longer period of time. If you're not already signed up for some sort of coaching or business model or something where you're having external help, like right away do that. Because you're, like Chris said, you're probably going to learn from people who made the mistakes 15 years ago when there was no help, and then they were smart enough to write it down and write down the solution. So paying money to save money in the long run and heartache is not a bad thing. And to be honest, I mean, like nowadays, there's these companies are so organized with so many different things. You might not be the one that loves sales, but maybe you do have a coach who coaches a few days a week, who happens to be really good at talking to people. And you could probably make them jump in on the sales calls. And like, there's all these different things that they're just so well organized that they build nice packages. So number one is that. And number two is you will run into a coaching problem. Develop an internship process as fast as possible. The sooner you have good coaches who, when you need them, your best coach actually gets pregnant and then realizes they're not coming back, you're like, shit, I'm screwed. Or your best coach moves to a different place and they're leaving you not because they don't like you, but it just happens. But if you have 3 of them already in the pipeline that you've been able to spend time when you were not in a rush, you're going to have a much easier transition for people who will be great at the job, and then the clients will respect them right away. So those are my 2.
There's no need for me to say anything else other than keeping it simple, right? Like do what Steve said. Honestly, do that, because that will make the most impact on your business today. And I think it's important, instead of trying to get for me to have something cool to say, just do what he said, and you'll thank him later.
We don't even have to ask how do you guys make a partnership work? Probably years and years of just saying, okay, you know what? He's got the good idea. I don't need to chime in or be right. So how can folks find your guys' brand and research? And then if they wanted to even reach out to ask for advice more personalized, where can they find you?
Go ahead, Steve.
All right. Well, I mean, we're both on Instagram. You can find real simple, Steve Cristini or at Chris Cristini. The main page of our brand is at Cristini Athletics. And then from there, we have like our individual location pages where it's a little bit more specific. So at Cristini Athletics Markham or at Cristini Athletics Woodbridge. You can find us in the community. We're at most of the big comps. We're at the meetups. We try to be as active as we can in all the different things for CrossFit. We believe in it. We want to see it grow. We want to see it better. If you're a 10+ year affiliate owner, hit us up. I think there's a lot of service out there for 0 to like 8 years. I think past 10 is a very different world. We'd be happy to talk to people. We've done lots of podcasts. We've done lots of just calls. I've been on the phone a number of times with affiliate owners just out of passion. Hit us up on Instagram.
15 years later and still as passionate as ever. I think we can all aspire for that. And on that note, 3, 2, 1, time.